Mike Pounce. Mike Pounce.
Welcome to the show. Around the nation, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here. It's Friday. Thank goodness. We got a fun show for you guys here today. Fun and, of course, disastrous because that's kind of how we do things here. You know the deal. We're gonna talk about Mike Pounce. That's a fun story. Then we have why Donald Trump is actually orange. Or at least why he believes he looks orange. That's fun. We're gonna go to some disaster, of course. We're gonna talk about the AOC ad that happened during the debate, or I should say the anti-AOC ad. I'm gonna break that down. Then we'll talk about Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis, I should say, and his answer on gun control, getting a little bit of heat. And then, good news, we'll end the week with something nice. So I will leave that until later. All right. So there's a breakdown of the show. We're going to have a lot of fun, of course, at least the first couple of stories here. Now, before we get into it, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps out greatly. Just hit the share button, hit the like button, smash that like button, guys and gals. I definitely appreciate it. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook. We're currently streaming on Facebook, so if you could share that as well, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so with that, let's go to thanking some patrons. Let's go to our $5 members. It's a level 3 member. I know I came up with all these levels, but it's basically just like $1, $3, $5, and 10. So we're at the $5. So let me thank some of you guys: Baruti Badaiko, Battle Axe, Ben Adam Johnson, and I'm not sure why Brian Newton is here. So and the reason I say that is that Brian Newton is an exceptional person. This guy is freaking awesome. So he's supporting your show way more than $5. I don't know why he's in the $5 range. But he is a massive supporter of the show financially, and he deserves a lot more than just thanks, but just really nothing else that I can really give him other than being able to do this show, and of course my absolute heartfelt 100% thanks. But Brian is amazing, and so thank you so much, Brian, and thank you to the rest as well. You guys are amazing. You make the show happen. Thank you. All right. Other ways to support us, of course, is joining as a channel member by hitting the join button below. You can see that right in the page. And buying merchandise. So all that stuff goes to help the show. All right. So with that out of the way, I do want to do a little bit of impressions about how the debate went. Winners, losers. Look, let's be honest. I actually found the debate kind of boring. A little disappointing. Main reasons is they look. It's still 10 people on the stage. Still a lot of people there, right? Ton of people, 10, and so it's the same as the last debate. It's just not 2 nights. You had 10 people on stage before, 10 people on stage this time. And so it was essentially watching the second or third debate. Or I'm sorry, the second or first. And so the dynamic hadn't really changed. Except now that here you have Biden, Warren, and Sanders on the same stage. Problem is, Sanders, Warren and especially Sanders, did not get a lot of time to talk. So I remember seeing a breakdown of how often the people were supposed to were allowed to speak, and you had Bernie Sanders down at the bottom next to Andrew Yang. Now Andrew Yang, of course, still did not get to speak as much as the rest. He was down at the bottom, and then you had Bernie Sanders. It didn't help that Bernie Sanders also had like a problem. He's losing his voice, right? Because dude runs like runs around and does rallies all the time, and he's got the energy of a Energizer Bunny, but at the same time, any normal person is going to lose their voice if they continue to do town halls and rallies at the especially at the pace that Bernie Sanders does. Now that says something about him. For one, it says he didn't expect to lose his voice and that he's way overworked, but at the same time, it also says that this is a guy who can keep up with the country and who could definitely be able to do the job. So good and bad, right? So as far as, like I said, the debate when Bernie Sanders was able to speak, he was incredibly strong, especially when he teamed up with Elizabeth Warren, Medicare for All, to take on Joe Biden on healthcare. Those were some great answers. One of the things that was supremely irritating is the climate change section. They asked one question on climate change, and they didn't even have Bernie Sanders answer it. Bernie Sanders is the most progressive plan on that stage. And I want to correct myself, too, from a segment that I did earlier, right? It was a few days ago. So Tulsi Gabbard, who's not on that stage, right? So I think she actually should have been on that stage, not because I love Tulsi or anything like that. It's because she pulled within the qualifications to be able to be on that stage. Why was she not on that stage? She should have been, mainly because of the qualifications. But the DNC is like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to change our qualifications. We're going to, kind of try to leave people out as much as we can. So that's what it is. Now, the reason I bring her up is she has a climate change plan called the OFF Act. I got it wrong. I called it the STOP Act. Now, Tulsi Gabbard did do the Stop Arming Terrorists Act. Okay, that's good. But her climate change plan is an OFF Act, and it actually what it would do is would complement the Green New Deal. It wouldn't replace the Green New Deal. I think those two things would work hand in hand, in tandem, to not only put us towards the path of energy, independence from fossil fuels, but also give us the enforcement mechanisms to be able to do the Green New Deal more effectively. So there you go. But that's why I mentioned her. But again, they didn't even go to Bernie Sanders on climate change. Green New Deal. Come on, dude. What are you doing? You're asking what one question. By the way, healthcare and climate change are two of the biggest issues that Democrats, that voters care about. Healthcare and the environment and climate change. Okay, we're going to talk about climate change, but of course, the framing of the questions, you guys know, it's mainstream TV, it's cable news. They're always going to talk about, oh, but how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Bitch, we told you how we're going to pay for it. Plenty of times. But they continued, of course, to bring out the old, and Joe Biden did the whole, it's going to be $34 trillion on top of what we're already spending. That's a complete and bold-faced lie. It's garbage. Bernie Sanders brought up that, hey, man, look, we're actually going to spend way more than $34 trillion over the next 10 years. By the way, they bring up that number over the next 10 years. Not like, it's $50 trillion a year. That's insane. 34, it's insane. No, we would actually save money. People would save money. The government would save money, and we would get all health care. But so that frustrated me as well. So like I said, overall, kind of a disappointing debate. I really want to see the field start to narrow a lot more. Because look, I want to see an actual debate. What these are with 10 people is who's going to get the best soundbite. And I hate it when it's packed with so many people. And look, I understand like everybody has deserves to be on the stage to make their case, right? But the way that it's structured, you can't make your case. And so once the field gets a little bit smaller, and I feel like there's going to be some people that drop off, Klobuchar, I think Klobuchar probably going to be gone. And I don't know. Yang might stay for quite some time. He's actually doing better than some of the other people that were on the stage. So okay, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But again, I would like to see the field narrowed a bit more. I think 5 on stage, 6 at most, would actually be able to allow people to get into some nuance and really kind of make a case and show the differences between the candidates. And that, I think, is what a debate is really for. Okay. All right. With that said, let's get into the stories. All right. The vice president now has a brand new nickname thanks to President Trump. Now, he was speaking at an event, Trump was, in Baltimore on Thursday, and he said this.
Chuck Grassley was there, and Joni Ernst, and John Thune, and Mike Pounce, and so many, just a whole group of great people.
It's a whole group of great people, including people that don't actually exist, like Mike Pounce. Not to be confused with Sir Pounce, by the way. He is the superior and non-bigoted of the Pounce family. All respects to Sir Pounce. The cat from Game of Thrones, in case you're wondering who that is. So, okay, that was fun. Let me hear that again.
Mike Pounce.
He's trying, right? Pound. All right. Anyway, so the internet had some fun with this. So let me read you some tweets. Kevin Cruz said, Mike Pounce sounds like someone who guest emceed a Beastie Boys track. What? Look, it does kind of sound like Mike Pounds or Pounce. Definitely not Pence. So you could go either way on that, but I like Mike Pounce. So we'll stay with that. Kate Bennett says, meanwhile, the president just called his vice president Mike Pounce, so everything is fine. Everything's fine. No mental decline. Nothing like that. No forgetting who's called what. No forgetting that the vice president of the United States, who's been close with Donald Trump for years, just got called the wrong name. Nothing wrong with that. Man in the Hoodie said, Mike's going to tweet out tomorrow that he's legally changed his name to Mike Pounce, right? Hey, look, wouldn't surprise me. After all, Mike Pence, look, it was a couple of days ago that there was a story where Donald Trump and Mike Pence are not getting along. Their campaigns are not getting along, or I should say their campaign teams are not getting along. And so there's been talk, if this is correct, there's been talk that Pence might be replaced with a Nikki Haley. So, him changing his name to
Mike Pounce
might be a thing. I don't know. More. Rick G says Mike Pounce, bigoted anti-gay cat. Max Kennerly says, gather around the old tire fire, my grandchildren, and let me tell you how the apocalypse began. With a story about Mike Pounce, Tim Apple, and the hurricane that wasn't going to hit Alabama. The dystopian future. Can't wait for that. James Oliphant says, finally, Mike Pounce is a great name for a book series about an ultra-conservative cat. I believe there's a top conservative cat on Twitter. You should probably follow him. And Trent Capelli finally points out that the name, the fact that Donald Trump has flubbed plenty of names. In this tweet, he says Mike Pounce, Tim Apple, I'd forgotten about most of these, Marilyn Lockheed, Pleasure, not Paradise, which is one of the paradises where one of the shootings happened, Moon of Mars, Kidney in the Heart, Frederick Douglass's Great Things, Covfefe, Hamburgers, Wheel That Is Older Than the Wall, People Being Massacred in Bowling Green, Smocking Guns. That is just some of the things that he has said that made people go, wait, what? What did he just say that? And then, of course, there's the normal stuff like normal, right? Like on the hurricanes. Why don't we just nuke hurricanes? Hurricanes, again, for when it comes to Puerto Rico is an island surrounded by water. Big water. Ocean water. We're not dealing with someone who's very, very smart and very articulate. I mean, look, I can understand some of the other things and just not being super smart, but Mike Pence has been your vice president for about 3 years. You might want to get his name right the next time. Just saying.
Mike Pounce.
Okay. Moving on. It's the wettest in the standpoint of water. Okay. So President Trump gets a lot of heat for looking rather orange. And so during a speech at the 2019 House Republican Conference retreat dinner, he explains that it's not really his fault. No. It's the fault of lighting.
The light bulb. People said, what's with the light bulb? I said, here's the story. And I looked at it. The bulb that we're being forced to use, number one, to me, most importantly, the light's no good. I always look orange. And so do you. The light is the worst.
It's the light. Light's the worst. Millie, it doesn't have anything to do with your shitty spray tans. But I'm just asking. We all know he fake bakes. I think it's fairly obvious. You think Donald Trump has the patience to sit in a tanning booth? Really? Look, maybe unless they were playing Fox News. No. The guy can't sit still for a minute. Of course he fake bakes. But he has convinced himself that this is the reason that he needs to get rid of these pesky energy-efficient light bulbs, right? So last week, it was announced that the administration would roll back requirements for energy-efficient light bulbs enacted under the two previous administrations. This was both the Bush administration, who started this, and the Obama administration, who sought to expand it. But Trump said, no, we're going to roll those back, and we're going to push incandescent bulbs. Oh, so that's interesting, right? So now Trump is going to go on about why he's doing this, well, let's let him explain.
But number two, it's many times more expensive than that old incandescent bulb that worked very well. And very importantly, I don't know if you know this, they have warnings. If it breaks, it's considered a hazardous waste site. It's gases inside. And read what they say. If it breaks, bring it to your local whatever, have it wrapped, have it this. What are we doing? What are we doing? And I said to one of the top people today, well, they break a lot, don't they? Yes, sir. What do? They just throw them away. They don't care. but they call it hazardous waste. But it's many times more expensive, and the light is not as good. I mean, frankly, the light is not as good. So we're going to sell that, but we're also going to sell incandescent bulbs, and people are so happy about it. It's really been pretty amazing.
People are so happy about it. No, I love how he talks about hazardous waste. No, you're a hazardous waste site. you're full of gases, okay, that are dangerous for other people. Oh, come on, man. Really? Now look, the Bush and Obama administration did just come to this because, oh, the light bulbs are worse, as he says, and they don't give off of as much light. No, it turns out they said we're going to go with these standards because this lighting is actually better. Energy efficient bulbs such as halogen incandescents, CFLs, and light emitting diodes or LEDs typically use about 25 to 80% less energy than traditional incandescent light bulbs and can last up to 25 times longer. Look, I don't know about you guys, but I only like having to buy light bulbs every 5 to 10 years. I mean, maybe you love buying and changing out light bulbs every few months, the old incandescents, but at least it's my freedom. Yeah, okay. If you enjoy paying more, I guess, and that's who and so that's why Trump's your guy, right? But here's the thing, right? Nobody in their right mind wants to pay more for energy costs. Why would you want to do that? To own the libs? No, it's completely ridiculous. So no, but what Trump is doing, the reason that he wants to get rid of this is because, I mean, if you look at the financial side, right? Incandescents are probably cheaper to make. They don't last as long, built-in obsolescence, right? And so you have to keep going back and buying more. And yes, they are cheap to buy, but you have to buy more of them. They also use more energy, and that's good for the power companies. It's good for the oil companies, right? They make more money if you use more power. Now, there is one thing that Donald Trump said that was actually true, and that is at least one of the bulbs is hazardous, and that's the compact fluorescent lamps. Now, they contain hazardous materials such as mercury vapor in a very small amount, but it is there. These bulbs can be disposed of fairly easily and even recycled. You know, it can't be recycled? Incandescent light bulbs. So now let me go to the energy department, right? So they might know a few things about energy in these light bulbs. All fluorescent lights contain small amounts of mercury. Some CFLs with magnetic ballasts contain small amounts of short-lived radioactive material. Because of these hazardous materials, you should not toss burned-out lamps into the trash. You should instead, of course, bring them to a recycling center. Okay, so he's right about that. Wow. Now, that is only CFLs, right? So there are other types of energy-efficient light bulbs. Again, you have halogen incandescents and LEDs. Now, I run mostly LEDs in my house. Okay. Now, in my experience, they're actually brighter. Now, if you have like a warm light, that's going to turn you orange, right? I have more of a bright light so that I'm not orangified, if that makes sense. And look, is there an upfront cost? Well, the cost continues to be reduced every year. But yeah, they can get a little expensive in the short term. But in the long term, if you have the same bulbs for 5-10 years with that same kind of brightness, that actually ends up being quite a bit in savings when it comes to energy. That's a no-brainer. Even the most conservative person, you've got to love saving money, right? Well, then again, no, because this is the same people that burn their Nikes. Or they take their expensive coolers that they have already bought and paid for and blow them up and post it on YouTube. Yeah, we're not dealing with some very smart people who do that. But look, again, no brainer, right? Most normal people want to save money. But here's the thing. Trump is not a normal person. I think we've established that already. And so he looks at these standards, and it was an Obama project. So that's what he looks at. That's what jumps out. Obama did it. Well, I got to undo it. Anything that Obama does, I have to undo. Oh, well, great. Because, of course, Obama, and because he's also not a very smart person. Remember, this is somebody who thinks windmills cause cancer and that everybody has an internal storage battery that when you deplete it, you die. And you deplete it faster if you do exercise. We should not be talking energy with someone who's not very stable, nor is a genius. Just saying. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the next video. The next story, I should say. And that is the Republican Party. Take my incandescence over my cold dead hands. Just imagine that. Okay. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez slammed an ad paid for by a Republican PAC that showed her congressional portrait being set on fire. Let's watch that ad, and we'll break it down.
This is the face of socialism and ignorance. Does Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez know the horror of socialism? My father was minutes from death in Cambodia before a forced marriage saved his life. That's socialism. Forced obedience, starvation. Mine is a face of freedom. My skin is not white. I'm not outrageous, racist, nor socialist. I'm a Republican.
Well, I mean, you're one of those things. You're a Republican for sure. Look, man, that was a fairly disgusting ad. Now, it was purchased by the New Faces PAC, right? So I guess the whole point of the New Faces PAC is to say, hey, look, we have people that are not white saying the things that we've always been saying about how socialism is terrible and how black people are terrible, et cetera, et cetera. But it's new faces. It's that we can't possibly be racist at all because look, we have somebody named Elizabeth Heng. Look, she's Asian. There you go. So look, I think it's pretty obvious what they were going for in this ad. Basically saying that AOC and people like her, that social democrat or democratic socialist, are basically the same as Pol Pot. Now, look, it takes a pretty far logical leap to compare people who say things like, we want to expand healthcare to everybody, Medicare specifically, regardless of age, and we can do it in the richest country in the world at half the cost. So everyone will have healthcare. It takes a logical leap to go from that to, oh, by the way, the same people who are promising that also want to be a dictator and murder people. But they just did that. They said socialism, which isn't even social. Nobody even knows what that means anymore. She can't define it. She doesn't know what socialism is. She's putting the most extreme example of authoritarian communism, which, again, doesn't even make sense because communism is not supposed to be authoritarianism, but yet it somehow turns out to it because it ends up centralizing power within. But you know how it goes, right? So we could sit there and talk semantics and talk theory all the time. I don't agree with communism, but at least I can know what it is. You know, socialism is state-run. Worker-run businesses, right? Worker-run, worker-owned, right? Nobody on that stage is saying we should nationalize the economy, and nobody on that stage, and nobody in the Democratic Party is saying, oh, by the way, we should also murder people. This is ridiculous. Absolute garbage. But this is the state of discourse in this country where nobody knows what anything means anymore. Nobody. I mean, Canada has single payer healthcare, right? They haven't murdered a bunch of their own people, as far as I know. Neither has the UK, Norway, Finland, Denmark, etc. None of the Nordic countries have done it. Let's be honest. Here in America, we're not even nowhere. We're nowhere near socialism. Okay, we have a mixed market economy. Democratic socialists, so-called democratic socialists, Bernie Sanders and Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, they're actual centrists. Not, in the world context they are, but in America they're considered far loony left, right? No, they believe in regulated free market capitalism, in a mixed market system, generous welfare benefits like the Nordic states, but with regulated free market capitalism. That's what they believe in. And she's making this insane comparison between that and Pol Pot and Stalin. What a bunch of garbage. Absolute garbage. No, like I said, people who are social democrats or they call themselves democratic socialists, again, they're not exactly right on the label here, as I point out, are pretty much centrist when it comes to the world, right? Everyone else in the United States, the Republican Party, massively right-wing. Now, the problem goes further than this just being comically wrong. This is also dangerous. And why is that? Because it puts her in the crosshairs. I mean, what they're doing is they're basically telling people that if people like AOC are in power, that they will eventually come and murder you and your family after putting you through extreme poverty. Now, again, that's a really big problem. Okay? She already gets a staggeringly high number of death and rape threats on a daily basis from people who are unhinged. I mean, Fox News talks about her 12 times a day. It says, look how horrible she is. Look how horrible she is. Look how dumb she is. Go get her. Oh, did we say that out loud? Oh, we didn't actually mean that. But go get her. There are unhinged people in this country that have lots of weapons and are influenced very, very easily by the things that they see on cable news, by the lies and gross misstatements. This puts people's lives in danger. And that's what's going on here. You know what that's called? Stochastic terrorism. This ad is saying, if we allow them in power, they're going to destroy us. So do something first. And I know it's supposed to be we're Republicans and we're not racist ad, but that's also the subtext here. I mean, again, super dangerous. Super dangerous. Now, ABC is under fire for airing this ad. And now we found out that while this ad was okayed, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, now that's a group that promotes separation of church and state, right? Kind of like one of our forefathers or founding fathers. And they said that we tried to put up some ads, but were rejected the same night. Later in the broadcast, ABC aired an ad funded by Numbers USA. Now, that's a group that is anti-immigrant. Political Research Associations has reported that the group's president, Roy Beck, once spoke to a white nationalist group and formally edited The Social Contract, a journal that puts out what the Southern Poverty Law Center called race-baiting articles penned by white nationalists. Oh, but they let those ads on, and they let this ad on, but they don't let Freedom from Religion Foundation. I thought you wanted free speech. I thought you wanted a free exchange of ideas to allow people to, basically show their own perspective. Oh, no, they don't want that. They want only the right-wing perspective. It's not an accident. And it's not ABC's fault. And I'm going to explain how that is. This is actually Sinclair Broadcasting. So this debate was aired, and these ads were aired on a lot of ABC affiliates. Okay? So these affiliates are owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. You guys know Sinclair Broadcasting. I've done plenty of stories on how they manipulate media. They do must-run segments of Sebastian Gorka and saying, all sorts of propaganda and lies and misinformation. That's what they do. And so that's exactly what they did. They aired these ads, which are basically BS right-wing propaganda. So now AOC responded to this. She said, quote, Republicans are running TV ads setting pictures of me on fire to convince people they aren't racist. Life is weird. I'd say she took it pretty well. Now, she also said, I know this wasn't an ad for young conservatives or color. That was a pretense. What you just watched was a love letter to the GOP's white supremacist case. Others expressed shock at the ad, of course, and ABC is running it. Mehdi Hassan tweeted, Trump officials and GOP senators were asked to leave a few restaurants, and we had a whole news cycle about a lack of civility on the part of the left. The GOP, on the other hand, just set AOC's face on fire. Hashtag both sides. As you can see, that's what it is, too. Oh, how dare you be uncivil, Republicans say, and then they do this. Come on. Ultraviolet said, this ad is abhorrent, literally burning AOC and promoting violence against a sitting member of Congress. How did you let this on the air, ABC? Jordan Uhl says, this is a very strange PAC ad featuring a burning pic of AOC that aired during the Dem debate. Ben the Arc Jewish Action said, this is the ad ABC allowed to run during tonight's Dem debate. Right-wing propaganda depicting AOC set on fire, burning into images of skeletons. This is right out of the white nationalist playbook. No news network should be profiting off of such hatred. Yeah. Look, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that profit off hate. And a lot of these people already have all the money. And they use this kind of hate and division so that they can hold on to that money and all those resources. Look, this is an absolutely disgusting, hateful, totally inaccurate ad. And the Republican group who put this together, they should be ashamed of themselves. Of course, unfortunately, we know that they will never be because they have no shame. All right, I'm going to take a break. We'll come back with Beto O'Rourke and his answer during the debate, and then our feel-good story at the end of the show. So stay right here. We'll be back. We'll take some comments as well. And if there are any, read some super chats. All right, guys. We'll be back. Stay right here.
Mike Pounce. Mike Pounce.
Welcome back to the show. I'm having too much fun with that. Mike Pounce. Okay, anyway. So I've got a couple of comments here. So we'll start with the super chat from Peril77. Just wants to remind everybody that there are federal elections in Canada in about 39 days. Okay. Awesome. So maybe I'll look up and see who the progressives are and follow it. Thank you for letting me know. Zach Sherman, who's a member, says the MSM is garbage. I hope the ads had the opposite effects. Morlangal Amathar says free markets are a lie. They don't exist anywhere. Yeah, I mean, look, we technically live in a mixed market economy because mixed market economies tend to work out the best, where you have elements of obviously, private property ownership, capitalism, and also you have strong safety nets and regulations. So you get kind of the best of both worlds working together because they're not mutually exclusive. And you have, again, people that are protected, that have healthcare, that have the ability to take care of their families, and also strong entrepreneurship and property rights. That's important. Every successful society has been a mixed market economy. I mean, you look at, like I said, at the Nordic states, they're not socialist. They're mixed market economies. They're just far more generous with actual public works than we are here in America. And here in America, we're just more concerned about giving corporations and the wealthy much more resources than anyone else. So, and then finally, we have Jonathan Andrasek, who reminds us that New Jersey has a lead issue and water standards are being rolled back. WTF, I agree. WTF indeed. And so, look, the lead issue is just not in Flint. Flint's been getting the most press about it. But look, there's lead issues in the water everywhere. It's a huge, huge problem, and we're doing nothing about it. We need a massive infrastructure project to be able to fix these lead pipes, to replace these lead pipes, I should say, and ensure that everybody has clean drinking water. You would think that in the wealthiest country in the world, that everyone would have access to clean drinking water. That, unfortunately, is not the case. It's really, really sad. Okay. Moving on. During last night's Democratic debate, the topic of gun control came up, and they actually talked specifically about gun buyback programs for AR-15s. Now, one of the candidates, Beto O'Rourke, ended up getting a huge applause line when he said that he would be in favor of a mandatory gun buyback program for the very popular semi-automatic rifle. Now, that same rifle happens to be a favorite of some of the recent mass shooters. So now I'm going to show you what O'Rourke said, and then we're going to detail some threats against him. So let's take a look at that first.
Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work?
I am, if it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield. If the high impact, high velocity round, when it hits your body, shreds everything inside of your body because it was designed to do that so that you would bleed to death on a battlefield and not be able to get up and kill one of our soldiers. When we see that being used against children, and in Odessa, I met the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
All right, so look, that's a pretty strong moment from Beto O'Rourke. Just a disclaimer, no, I'm not in favor of Beto O'Rourke. I'm in favor of Bernie Sanders. But nonetheless, this was an excellent moment and probably Beto one of his best moments of the night. So it was very, very strong. So now the meat of what he's saying, the policy that he's saying is basically let's bring back the assault weapons ban and do instead of which is what Biden had done back in 94 when they did the first assault weapons ban. They said, okay, we're going to ban the sales of certain types of military style weapons, but we're going to let people keep them. O'Rourke says, no, we're not going to let you keep them. We're going to do a mandatory buyback program. So now, of course, it was mentioned by the moderator that was asking the question. That's basically gun confiscation. And in a way, that's actually true. We're going to take your guns, but we're going to pay you for them. Okay. So that's what it is, right? So now we had that back in the 90s, and it was fairly effective because it reduced the amount of people killed by gun violence. Now, this is according to analysis of publicly available data, right? Which excludes armed robbery, gang, or domestic violence numbers in accordance to FBI standards. This is how the FBI calculates gun deaths, right? They found that compared with the decade before its adoption, the federal assault weapons ban, in effect from September 1994 through 2004, was associated with a 25% drop in gun massacres. Now, from back then, they only had 8 gun massacres to 6 gun massacres, and a 40% drop in fatalities from 81 people killed to 49. Now, again, that's very specific. It doesn't include, like I said, robbery, gang, or domestic violence, right? So this is specifically mass shootings, right? So now what we have in America now is we have a mass shooting every week. A mass shooting is considered to involve 4 or more people being killed. And now it happens literally all the time. So things are different than back then, right? So looking at the numbers and trying to extrapolate how it would be effective now, it would seem that it would be very effective. I mean, again, these weapons, they're not designed for the street. They're designed to kill lots and lots of people very quickly. One example of that. And by the way, this is kind of the point of the weapon. Like, why don't you, so those who are defending the use of this weapon, would you not agree that the whole purpose of these weapons is to kill people, whether it be in defense of your home or defense of your freedom? The whole point is to kill lots of people in a short amount of time. By the way, how short of amount of time? Well, in Ohio, there was a person that had a AR-15 and with a 100 round drum. So the police had arrived to that shooting within 1 minute. 9 people were already dead. 9 people. So look, it's very effective at doing what it's supposed to do. Kill people, right? That's the point. I don't agree that we should have weapons like that on the street, so I agree with Beto O'Rourke on this case. Now, I know people are going to flip out, right? Don't worry, guys. You still have handguns. You still have shotguns. You still have the right to self-defense. You still have the right to conceal carry pistols. You are more than capable of dealing with home defense or a potential thief or rapist or whatever. You still have that ability under the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment doesn't mean you can have any weapon you choose. Because obviously we've banned machine guns. Obviously we've banned civilian ownership of mortars and bazookas and tanks. I mean, so there is a way that you can also do a ban on what they call assault weapons and still protect the Second Amendment. Because believe it or not, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the ability for people to, be armed and defend themselves or their homes. Although, even though I know factually that people with guns in the homes are more likely to end up being killed by that same weapon. Oh, well, I guess that's the price of freedom. But the price of having a freedom for these assault style weapons, these military style weapons, is really high. It's way too high now. And so there's a problem here. Okay. So now a Republican congressman, he decided to weigh in. This Briscoe came, right? Texas Republican. Now, he said, in response to Mr. O'Rourke, quote, "My AR is ready for you, Robert Francis." Now, look, I don't know. That kind of sounds like a threat to me, and not a good look. So, now the response to this tweet was pretty swift. Not only was it deleted because it contained an actual threat, but before that, when it was up for about 3 hours, it was heavily ratioed. 3,400 people had commented on the post, and just 89 have retweeted it. So ratios, of course, when you get far more comments than you do likes or retweets. So it generally tends to mean that the people who are responding to you are freaking angry. Okay, so now O'Rourke also responded to this tweet by saying, "This is a death threat, Representative. Clearly, you shouldn't own an AR-15, and neither should anyone else." Oh, damn. To which Kane had responded, "You're a child." Well, what a comeback. Totally adult and responsible. Of course. Okay, so now first, he makes this threat, right? And the threat is whenever you talk about gun control, right? Whenever you talk about gun reform, whenever you talk about assault weapons bans, whatever, right? It's the same thing. Come and get it. Oh, so if somebody comes and tries to get it, you're going to shoot him. And that's essentially what you're saying. Now, I love the whole idea that, and I don't quite understand how they can square this in their own heads. They say they're pro-police, they say they're pro-military, they say they're pro-law enforcement, right? Except that they threaten those very same people if they enforce a law that they don't like. They say the government is forcing you to do things at the point of a gun, right? I hear that all the time from libertarians and conservatives. Oh, they're just forcing you to do this at the point of a gun. Well, it's also part of being society. I mean, if you don't want to be a part of society, I guess you can go live in the mountains by yourself. But if you're still living in the continental United States, then the laws still apply to you. So you would have to leave the United States and go live in a place that isn't claimed by anybody. But finally, you could be your own sovereign citizen and do whatever the hell you want. Hey, but at least you wouldn't be living at the point of the gun. That's part of being in a society. So, but it's funny because they say that, and yet at the same time, they're kind of the ones doing that, almost literally. Now, I'm not saying all Republicans, right? Of course not. In fact, there's a lot of Republicans that make a lot of sense that agree with gun reform. In fact, you have, according to a recent, this was done last month, about 2,000 respondents. So it's a fairly decent sample size as sample sizes go. And it's only just one poll, let's be fair. But they found that 7 in 10 voters, including 54% of Republicans, actually support a ban on assault-style weapons. I guess all these mass shootings have finally gotten to them. And they say, you know what? It's not worth it. I still have all my other guns. We'll let this one go. Okay. Now, even higher percentages supported a ban on high-capacity magazines and a purchase age of at least 21. Now, I don't think the purchase age will do anything, but whatever. So, look, point is, actually, there's a lot of people that are okay with this. Now, according to this one poll. Now, again, the other stuff, the other gun reform, measures actually do support or do have majority support, very broad support among both Republicans, Democrats, Independents, etc. Wide majority of people, and also have consistently polled this way, and that's federal background checks for all gun purchases. Okay, we could. Why not start with that? All right, we'll do the minimum. Even Donald Trump, before he gets talked to by Wayne LaPierre, says, "Oh yeah, we'll do background checks." And then LaPierre sits him down, has a little talk, and then suddenly, oh, background checks won't do anything. But anyway, back to Mr. Kane, right? So Mr. Kane got a little bit of trouble for this. In fact, he's getting looked into by the FBI. Interesting. But he has a history of tweeting out ridiculous things. In fact, he says, quote, "I get ratioed in the reg." Basically says he regularly gets ratioed. Oh, we'll love me. Great. It's probably because you're an asshole. I mean, if you say ridiculous things and make threats against people, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of people that are angry at you. And he, to be fair, he probably loves it because that's the whole point. Okay. All right. One more story here. I'm going to talk about freedom. It's our feel-good story today. All right. So California just did something great. They have passed a bill banning all for-profit prisons and immigrant detention centers in the state. So now this is Bill AB 32, and it passed on Wednesday and went to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk. Now, what it would do is it would shut down private facilities that hold inmates with criminal convictions. That's generally what a prison is, right? So now it would also shutter privately run facilities for immigrants who are considered civil detainees despite being held in prison-like conditions. So now there's about 2,200 people being held by these 4 facilities in California. The people who, did actual criminal stuff, who are criminals, will get sent to other facilities, while I do believe the immigrants will be released. I'm not entirely sure on that. But of course, they have to go somewhere, right? So now, Assemblyman Rob Bonta, who introduced this bill, said in February that the inclusion of immigrant detention centers was a stand against companies that, quote, only care for the almighty dollar. Okay, so now, look, if you want to go against these companies for that reason, well, I'm there for you, right? Because it turns out that these companies actually take lots and lots of taxpayer money and basically pocket most of it and don't put it into conditions. So now there are currently 4 privately operated immigrant detention centers in California. 2 of them, the Mesa Verde Detention Facility in Bakersfield and the Adelanto Ice Processing Center in San Bernardino. They're run by Geo Group, one of the biggest private prison companies in the country. Together, they hold up to 1,900 people. According to the nonprofit Organization for Freedom for Immigrants, Mesa Verde cost taxpayers $119.95 per detainee per day for the first 320 people detained, while Adelanto costs $111.92 per detainee per day for the first 1,455 people detained there. Now, both of those contracts for Geo Group are set to expire next year. So this says we will not re-up that. Okay, that's good. My understanding, according to Hamid Yazdanpana, an immigration attorney and the regional director for the Northern California Rapid Response and Immigrant Defense Network, said AB 32 would prevent new contracts for these facilities. The fact that they're on a 1-year bridge, it won't allow them to move from the 1-year contract to a longer-term contract. Great. Wonderful. Now, 2 other facilities, the Otay Mesa Detention Center in San Diego and the Imperial Regional Detention Facility in Calexico, are operated by CoreCivic and the Management and Training Corporation, respectively. The Imperial facility holds about 700 people. The Otay Mesa Detention Center has a capacity of about 896 people. CoreCivic's contract also expires next year. So that's the details of how many people they hold and their, of course, contract amounts, contract lengths. Now, along with stopping all the public money paying for these prisoners, which, again, is a huge markup from what it actually costs in regular state and federal run prisons, a lot of these detainees in the private prisons are not usually nonviolent. They're usually nonviolent drug offenders. And so there's a reason for that, because these corporations choose those people. They're easier to manage, and they can make a healthy profit off these people. And so the reason that they're shutting down these facilities down, by the way, one of the reasons is because abuse and mistreatment. The 2018 report by the DHS Inspector General found a number of significant health and safety risks at the Adelanto facility, where detainees often had to wait weeks and months to see a doctor and were put in solitary confinement for minor infractions. Solitary confinement is basically considered by the world to be torture. So yeah, shut them down. Shut them down. There should not be a profit motive in depriving people of freedom. Because look, if you have that profit motive, then there will be incentive to lobby the government to pass tougher laws in order to imprison more people. I mean, the Trump administration, speaking about the immigrants, right? The Trump administration has helped these companies out by putting a zero tolerance immigration policies out that put nonviolent immigrants in these facilities. The average detainee at the border and some of these border facilities outside of California cost over $700 a day per prisoner. And as of June of this year, about 52,000 were held in ICE custody, and around 71% were housed in facilities operated by these private prison companies, ensuring that these people made a crap ton of money. They're getting paid. And so that's the problem here. Now, California just took a big step in stopping that prison for profit. And, you know, they deserve all the credit in the world for that. This is something that we need to happen to shut down these for-profit prisons. I mean, and like people who are conservatives and libertarians, you value freedom, right? Well, I mean, the whole point of these for-profit prisons is to take away people's freedom in order to make money. Well, that's not the whole purpose. The purpose should be rehabilitation and reintroduction into society so that people can become actually successful and add to society, become good taxpayers. And so this does not do that. These private prisons tend to increase recidivism rates so that you will end up coming back and making them more money. That is not something that we should have in this country. And so I'm glad that they made this decision, and let's hope this continues to spread so we can finally shut down these corporations and ensure that people have freedom. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/TOATnation, or channel member. You can do that by hitting the join button below, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell twice if you want to continue to get notifications every time we're live or every time we get a new video out. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, guys. You have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday for another live show.
Mike Pounce.